The officer's voice was firm, but the trembling man's resistance sent shockwaves through the scene. As the cuffs clicked into place, no one could have guessed the horrifying journey that led them to this moment. What started as a routine welfare check had spiraled into one of the most grotesque and disturbing cases Fremont detectives had ever encountered. It began innocently enough, a missing persons report. On September 13, 2018, Lisa's friend Emma Torres made a 911 call, her voice shaky with concern. 911, what's your emergency?
I'm calling about my co-worker Lisa. She hasn't shown up to work for 2 days and I'm at her house now. I've been knocking, but there's no answer.
When officers arrived, the scene appeared straightforward, a possible suicide. But as they ventured deeper into the investigation, the truth unraveled into something far more sinister. Even seasoned detectives felt the weight of unease clawing at their chests. At the center of it all was Lisa's 90-year-old father, Gerald. A frail, soft-spoken man who had spent decades building the image of a devoted family man. Yet beneath his kind demeanor lay a chilling secret, one that had stayed buried for years, until now. Let me ask you, what would you do if someone you trusted your entire life turned out to be hiding something monstrous? The breakthrough came unexpectedly, a single overlooked clue that tied everything together. When Gerald was confronted with the evidence, the mask of innocence shattered. He knew his dark truth had finally been exposed. But the question lingered. What could drive someone to commit such a heinous act? Stay with me as we delve into the grim details that left an entire community shaken to its core. Maria Navarro was a quiet 67-year-old woman who lived alone with her 2 beloved cats in a modest house on Cedar Lane. Known for her dedication and reliability as a pharmacy technician at Fremont General Hospital, Maria was the kind of person who rarely missed work and always stayed in touch. But this time, she had been unreachable for several days. Her friend and co-worker Emily Reyes grew increasingly concerned. Sensing something was wrong, Emily decided to check on her. When she arrived at Maria's house, the door was unlocked, an unusual and unsettling sign.
I just pushed the door open a little. What I saw inside was worse than anything I've ever imagined.
In the dim light of the living room, Maria sat slumped in a chair. Her face was covered in dark mottled patches, a horrifying sight that made Emily's stomach churn. Panicked, she backed away and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency?
I'm at my friend's house. She's sitting in a chair, but there's something wrong. Her face, it's all black spots. I don't know if she's alive. Please send help.
When Fremont police officers arrived, what they found inside would haunt them forever. Officer, Fremont Police, hello? The house was eerily silent, save for the faint creaks of the floorboards beneath their boots. As they approached the motionless figure, the sense of dread deepened. Officer, is she moving at all?
I don't know. I didn't go any closer. Officer, ma'am, can you hear me?
The silence was deafening. As the reality of the situation set in, the officer stepped back and radioed in. Officer dispatch, we're likely dealing with a 1055. Maria's seemingly peaceful existence had taken a shocking and dark turn, one that would unravel into a gruesome mystery no one could have foreseen. Stay with me as we uncover the chilling details of what happened to Maria Navarro, and the secret that left an entire community shaken. The officers moved cautiously into the kitchen area, and that's when everything changed. What had seemed like a tragic suicide now transformed into something far darker. The kitchen was a nightmare, a crime scene so horrific it made the living room pale in comparison. Maria Navarro was discovered lifeless on the floor, just as Emily had feared. The sight was one Emily would never be able to erase from her memory.
Through tears, Emily asked the officer, I know I shouldn't ask this, but was it foul play? Or did she do this to herself? Officer, I don't know exactly. It looks like, but I can't say for sure yet.
At first glance, the scene suggested Maria had taken her own life. A knife was still clutched in her hand, adding to the illusion of self-inflicted harm. But as investigators examined the scene further, unsettling evidence began to emerge, pointing to a far more sinister explanation. One of the first signs something was wrong were the wounds on Maria's head and neck. They weren't consistent with a simple act of self-harm. The injuries were deep, violent, and clearly inflicted with immense force.
She was headed toward Piedmont, There was someone else in the car with her, but I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman.
But then, Tony added something unexpected. Later that day, around 5 p.m., he claimed to have seen Maria's car driving past their house. This detail intrigued detectives. If true, the person in Maria's car could have been the last person to see her alive. Investigators immediately began searching for surveillance footage near Tony's house to verify his account. To their surprise, the footage didn't support Tony's statement. Maria's car was nowhere to be seen at the time Tony described, nor at any other point that evening. Detective Coleman, we reviewed hours of footage, but her car just didn't show up. Either Tony was mistaken or something wasn't adding up. Given Tony's advanced age, 91 at the time, detectives decided his claim was likely an honest mistake rather than an attempt to mislead. However, it left them with no new leads and no clearer picture of the timeline of Maria's final hours. As investigators hit roadblocks with witness accounts, they turned their focus back to Maria's Fitbit. The device had the potential to reveal her exact time of death by tracking her heart rate and other activity data. The process wasn't simple. Maria's Fitbit synced to her desktop computer via Bluetooth every 15 minutes, but the data itself was stored on Fitbit's servers. Detectives quickly realized they needed Fitbit's direct cooperation to access the information. Detective Coleman. The computer was just a gateway. The real data was on Fitbit's servers and we needed their help to extract it. The team contacted Fitbit, understanding that the data stored on the device could finally break the case wide open. But as they waited for the company's response, one thing became increasingly clear. Whoever had taken Maria's life had been careful, perhaps too careful. The truth was still out there, hidden behind layers of deceit and misdirection. What would the Fitbit data reveal about Maria's final moments? And more importantly, would it lead detectives to her killer? Stay tuned as the story takes another chilling turn. While Tony remained in the interrogation room, investigators were busy searching his home for any evidence that could connect him to Karen's murder. What they uncovered painted a disturbing picture. In Tony's garage, detectives found a collection of tools, including a crowbar and a hammer, both of which had traces of what appeared to be blood. Forensic analysis later confirmed the blood was a match to Karen. Additionally, investigators discovered a pair of gloves with fibers that matched materials found at the crime scene. Back in the interrogation room, Tony's demeanor shifted. What began as a calm and composed stance soon gave way to signs of anxiety. His actions became erratic. He started doing exercises, almost as if attempting to display his physical capabilities. Detective Coleman. It was unsettling. It was as if he was trying to prove to himself, or maybe even to us, that he could have done it. As detectives laid out the evidence, Tony's initial denials began to falter. Detective Coleman. Tony, we know you were there when Karen's heart stopped. The Fitbit data doesn't lie. The tools we found in your garage connect you to this. Tell us the truth. Why did you do it? Tony finally broke his silence, his voice trembling. Tony, I didn't mean for it to happen. We argued. She said things. I lost my temper. According to Tony, the confrontation escalated when Karen mentioned a family dispute that had long been a source of tension. In a fit of rage, Tony struck Karen multiple times, ultimately ending her life. The revelation was chilling. Detectives were left to grapple with the horrific reality that a man who claimed to care for Karen could commit such a heinous act. The arrest of Tony brought some closure to Karen's family and friends, but the pain of her loss remained. Tony's trial revealed even more unsettling details about his actions and the lengths he went to cover up the crime. Detective Coleman, it's a tragedy. Karen deserves so much better. We can't bring her back, but at least we ensured justice was served. The case of Karen Navarro remains a stark reminder of the darkness that can sometimes lurk within even the most familiar relationships. Tony's trial painted a harrowing picture of betrayal and greed. Prosecutors argued that Tony's motive stemmed from financial desperation. Evidence uncovered during the investigation revealed that Tony had mounting debts and had recently been denied several loans. Investigators also discovered that Karen had a substantial life insurance policy, with Adele as the primary beneficiary. Prosecutors theorized that Tony, knowing Adele would inherit the payout, committed the murder in a desperate bid to secure financial stability.
The investigation into Maria Navarro's death began with a thorough examination of the crime scene and interviews with potential witnesses. The team meticulously collected evidence, hoping to piece together the events that led to her tragic demise. Every clue, no matter how small, was crucial in unraveling the mystery surrounding her death.
The doctor performing the autopsy explained that any one of the head injuries would have been immediately incapacitating. This raised an alarming question. If Maria had been rendered unconscious by these blows, how could she have inflicted the deep slash to her own neck?
It was impossible, Coleman said. This wasn't a suicide, it was undeniably a homicide.
With this confirmation, the team intensified their investigation, determined to uncover the identity of Maria's killer. One significant piece of evidence found at the scene was a receipt from a nearby grocery store, time-stamped September 7th at 4:27 p.m. This detail raised critical questions. Had Maria been with anyone? Did someone follow her home? Detectives combed through surveillance footage from the store. It was here on the grainy footage that they saw Maria alive for the last time. She walked into the store alone, moving about as if everything was normal, but something felt off. Could someone have been watching her from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? This receipt and the accompanying footage became the first threads in unraveling the mystery. Who was Maria's silent shadow, and how had they evaded suspicion until now? Stay with me as we uncover the chilling twists and turns that led to the truth and the horrifying identity of Maria Navarro's killer. Maria Navarro appeared calm and at ease in the surveillance footage. She moved through the grocery store, selecting her items without any visible signs of stress or fear. When she left the store, no one followed her, ruling out the possibility of a stalker. The footage proved invaluable in establishing a timeline. Maria was confirmed to be alive at 4:30 p.m. on Friday, September 7th. The items she purchased hinted at a social occasion, food for several people, but there was no one accounted for to share it with. This left detectives with a haunting question. Who did Maria meet after her last errand, and how did it lead to her death? Despite combing through the surveillance footage and following this lead, the investigation hit a dead end. Undeterred, detectives turned to Maria's neighbors, hoping someone might have seen or heard something unusual. Some neighbors recalled seeing Maria walking her dog on the morning of September 7th, while others mentioned hearing loud music coming from her house a few nights prior. But none of these accounts offered concrete clues about the tragic day in question. Maria lived alone, and her social circle was small. With no immediate family except for her aging parents, detectives decided they might hold the key to understanding Maria's final days. The investigation was about to take a dark and unexpected turn as they dug deeper into Maria's personal life, uncovering secrets that no one could have anticipated. Stay with me as we reveal the chilling answers hidden in plain sight and the truth about what really happened to Maria Navarro. Detectives wasted no time reaching out to Maria Navarro's mother, Adele, and her stepfather, Tony. With Maria's tragic death weighing heavily on everyone's minds, they hoped her parents could offer valuable insights into her life and any potential connections that might explain what had happened. When Sergeant Mark Coleman and his team arrived at their modest home, Tony greeted them at the door.
We're here to get to the truth, Coleman said gently. We're going to ask a lot of questions, and we need your help to catch whoever did this.
Tony nodded solemnly. Ask anything. We want to help however we can.
The family dynamic was complex. Adele was Maria's biological mother, but after Maria's father passed away, Adele had remarried Tony. Adding to the tragedy, Adele shared that Maria had once had a brother who died when she was a teenager, a loss that deeply affected her and caused her to withdraw from many close relationships. Detectives began by asking about Adele and Tony's last interactions with Maria. Tony revealed he had visited Maria's house on the afternoon of September 8th to drop off pizza and cookies.
She seemed fine, Tony said. She even joked about having a little party with her friends.
In this gripping tale, we delve into the first case that captivated the nation, a story of trust, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of justice. The timeline pieced together by detectives was damning. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, September 8th, 2018. Tony arrived at Karen's home to drop off pizza and cookies. 20 minutes later, Fitbit data indicated Karen's heart rate spiked and then ceased, marking her time of death. After 3:30, surveillance footage contradicted Tony's claim that Karen's car passed by his house later that day. Forensic evidence further solidified the case. The blood-spattered shirt, axe, and raincoat found in Tony's home matched Karen's DNA. Additionally, the distinctive blood patterns on Tony's clothing indicated he was present during the attack.
It's heartbreaking, but at least we were able to give Karen the justice she deserved. This case marked a turning point in the use of wearable technology in criminal investigations, showcasing how devices like Fitbits can provide critical evidence in solving crimes. Karen trusted him. He betrayed that trust in the worst way imaginable. During the trial, Tony's defense team argued that he was too elderly and frail to commit such a brutal crime. However, the prosecution countered with evidence of Tony's physical capabilities, including surveillance footage of him walking briskly to and from Karen's house and his behavior during police questioning. The Fitbit data became the cornerstone of the case, providing an unprecedented level of precision in establishing the timeline. Experts testified about the reliability of the data, and jurors were shown how it aligned perfectly with other evidence. On July 12, 2019, after weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury found Tony Ayo guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Karen's family and friends expressed relief that justice had been served, but mourned the tragic loss of a kind and compassionate woman.
The second case and conclusion. It started as a quiet weekend in a peaceful neighborhood, but by its end, a woman with a bright future and a loving circle of friends was found brutally murdered in her own home. Lisa Moreau's death shocked her community, not just for its savagery, but for the sinister truth about the person responsible. This is the story of how betrayal struck at the heart of trust and left a trail of unanswered questions. Lisa, a vivacious and kind-hearted woman, lived alone but was far from isolated. Her days were filled with the joy of her work, hobbies, and cherished connections with her family and friends. Yet, on a fateful day, her life came to a horrifying end. An end investigators soon discovered wasn't the result of a random act, but a premeditated murder by someone shockingly close to her. The case gained national attention when 91-year-old Tony Ayo, Lisa's stepfather, was arrested for her murder. Tony, a soft-spoken man with a frail appearance and medical ailments, seemed an unlikely suspect. How could someone with limited mobility and health complications commit such a heinous act? Yet, the evidence said otherwise. Unraveling the evidence. Detectives worked tirelessly, piecing together Lisa's final hours. A Fitbit worn by Lisa proved instrumental in determining the exact time of her death, showing her heart rate spiked and then ceased shortly after Tony's visit to her home. Tony himself admitted to being there, but denied any involvement, claiming he left her alive and well. However, the evidence told a different story. Surveillance footage and a search of Tony's home uncovered damning clues. A raincoat soaked in blood, a butcher's cleaver, and shirts with blood spatter consistent with violent force. Investigators also found suspicious notations about estate transfers, suggesting financial motives. When questioned, Tony offered inconsistent explanations, claiming the blood came from minor injuries he'd suffered, though no such injuries were found on his body. His demeanor grew erratic, further solidifying detectives' suspicions. Lingering questions. Before the case could go to trial, Tony passed away, leaving many to speculate about the true events of that day. Critics questioned the reliability of the evidence, including the Fitbit data, which some argue can be inaccurate. Others pointed to Tony's advanced age and frail condition, doubting whether he could have physically overpowered Lisa in such a brutal attack. With Tony gone, the case remains officially unresolved, leaving Lisa's family and friends to grapple with the painful reality that justice may never fully be served. Remembering Lisa. Lisa Moreau's funeral was a testament to the lives she touched. Friends and family gathered, sharing stories of her kindness and unwavering spirit. As roses were placed on her grave, her loved ones vowed to remember her for the joy she brought into their lives, not the tragic circumstances of her passing. While her murder may forever hold unanswered questions, Lisa's legacy shines brightly in the hearts of those who knew her. This heartbreaking case is a stark reminder of how fragile trust can be and the devastating consequences when it's shattered. How do you think the justice system could address cases like Lisa's when the accused is no longer alive? If this story left you with questions or insights, we want to hear from you. Do you believe the evidence against Tony was enough for a conviction, or do you think the doubts raised warrant a closer look? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're captivated by unraveling real-life mysteries like this one, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Fake or True Ghost. Join us as we uncover the truth behind the most chilling cases. Stay vigilant, stay curious and stay safe.